Pivot tables. All right, that's what we're going to be talking about today in this video. All right, so let's say that we have a TV business, all right, and this is a list of our customer purchases. And as you can see here, we have a huge data set. We have almost 1,200 customers here, and we have a little bit of information on each customer. So we sell TVs, we have the date they purchased, the store in which they purchased it. So let's just say we have an East store, West store, Midwest store, South store, and so on, right? And then we also recorded if they're male or female, their age, if they bought and just to keep it simple, we sell big and small TVs. So we'll just say they bought a big or a small TV. Big TVs are $499.99 and small TVs are $299.99. All right. So pivot tables are super useful in doing quick calculations in huge data sets. Instead of manually entering in each function in Excel, we can create a pivot table to speed up the process and show data and calculate it in an easier and faster way. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit Insert, Pivot Table, and we want to select the data that we want calculated or used within this pivot table. So we'll go ahead and select this as our range. Go ahead and hit, you can either select to put the pivot table on a new worksheet, so it'll create a new worksheet for you, or just this existing one and the location. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. And what that's going to do is bring up this little side window as well as this little box right here. So as you can see here in these options, we have everything, we have all of our column titles. And in each of these, for example, if I select gender, it will select all of these inputs here. And then down here we have the different field areas we can use for the pivot table. So let's say that we want to know how many females bought a TV and how many males bought a TV. So we can go ahead and click gender, go ahead and put it in this rows column, and as you'll see, it'll bring up female and male in the rows, right? And if we were to switch it to columns, it would bring it in the columns, right? So we'll go ahead and keep it in rows, and then we're going to want to select sales and put that in the values. So this is the total price that females and males have spent, but we want to know just how many customers were female and how many were male. So we can go ahead and click the value field settings, and we can change the calculation that it's using. Right now it's using the sum of all of the sales, right? So we go ahead and hit the count. So that'll just count 1 for each customer that purchases TV. And then we'll see that there was 230 females that purchased TVs and 970 males that purchased TVs within this data set with a grand total of 1,200. All right. So let's say we want to do this a little. We want to go dive in a little deeper, right? So we're going to go ahead and switch this field back to the sum, so we know how much money the female customers spent and how much money the male customers spent on TVs. But we also want to know this according to the size of the TV. So we'll go ahead and put size here in the columns. And then here, what it's doing is according to the male and female, it's dividing it into big and small TVs. So right here we can see, we'll go ahead and switch the format of this a little bit better so we can understand it a little better. So here we see that females spent $36,000 on big TVs, males spent $138,000 on big TVs, while females spent $47,000 on small TVs and males spent $207,000 on small TVs. And here we have the grand totals, right? Format this as well. And then here we have the grand totals for each. And so this is very useful in doing a quick calculation if you just want to get more specific to kind of look at and do further analysis on your sales or whatever your data set is to kind of understand where things are coming from, right? And so we can do this with all of these things. So let's say that we want to know, instead of the sum of sales, we just want to know the count, right? So this is how many, and then we'll reformat this again. So this is how many TVs were bought by males that were small, how many TVs that were bought by males that were big, all right? So let's say that we want to switch this. We want to know, instead of the size of the TV, we want to know the region of where it was sold. So here we just drag that right in there, and then we see, like, if we were wondering how well our South store is doing, we can see that our South store has sold 358 TVs within this data set, or within this range, and we can see how many males and females purchased TVs. All right, so you can also do filters with pivot tables, and this is also a super useful tool. So let's say we want age in here. All right, so then it'll bring this up, and we can select different ages. So let's say we want to do age 55. So then we can see 55-year-old, there were two 55-year-old males who bought TVs in the East store, or two 55-year-old females that bought TVs in the South store within this data set. So this is just super quick. And so imagine doing this without a pivot table, just entering in formulas, and you could do it, but it'd be a lot more complicated and require a lot more effort. Where in here as pivot tables, you essentially just drag and click to how you want it, right? So let's get rid of gender, and instead we want to do the date, right? So then we have all these different dates, and we can see, so let's switch this filter to all again. So then we can see specifically every single date for this month, which store, how many TVs were sold in each store each day, all right? Totaling 1,200 sales for the month, which is 40 a day. All right, so the big thing with pivot tables is that you need to make sure that you have a value in a row or column or both, right? Filters are optional, but make sure you have at least one row or one column and you're displaying the values in order to have a pivot table do any sort of calculation, right? And so then when I click out of this pivot table or click back in, it'll show this field list again. And this is essentially the field list, this little side window here. And here you can mess around with different settings, slicers, timelines, and things like that. And hopefully in a future video we'll go further into depth on slicers. But anyways, hopefully this was a super useful tutorial. If you have any questions or anything was super confusing, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll address it in a future video. Go ahead, hit that like button to get those algorithms working, and make sure you subscribe for future content. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.